Socrates' final criticism of Theaetetus ultimately rests on an idea about the limitations of the senses. Specifically, what he's going to argue is that knowledge requires familiarity with things that the senses can't show us. So I want to think through this by looking at a specific example. It's a very simple one. So here's a picture of a donut. Imagine it's a real donut. Imagine you're holding this donut in your hand. And ask yourself this question. What can your senses show you is true about this donut? And Socrates' claim is this, that your senses can each show you a different property that the donut has. So each of the different senses can show us a different kind of property. So the sense of taste could show us that the donut is sweet, at least parts of it are. Touch could show us that the donut is malleable, right? You could tear it apart, this donut that you're holding in your hands. It's reasonably soft. Sight can show you that it has colors, right? That it has white icing, has multicolored sprinkles, and that the dough has a certain kind of beigey yellow color too. Smell could show you that the donut is pleasant smelling, right? It might smell sweet or fragrant, generally good. And you can listen to the donut, right? You know, if it's just sitting there, that it's not making any noises. So each of your senses can show you something that's true about this thing, this particular donut. But what Socrates wants to argue is that there are other things that we claim to know about the donut that the senses can't show us just on their own. So, what are examples of these? For example, that the donut exists, right? Again, you're imagining that you have a real donut in your hands, but if you did, you would say, yeah, this donut is a real thing. Your senses can't show you that. So existence, or as Socrates says, being and non-being, that's something that the senses can't know. What else? He says sameness and difference. So you can know that this donut is different from others, right? You could distinguish it from others if it was placed in a lineup with them. Even if you couldn't identify this particular one, you could say, yeah, that's not the same thing. But you also know that it's the same as itself, right? That it's not different from itself, that it's self-identical. So identity, yeah, sameness and difference. Those are traits that your senses can't show you, but you would say are true of the donut. Your senses also can't show you that the donut is unified. So this is a thing that you know about it, right? It's one thing. But your senses, none of them can show you that. That's something that the senses by themselves can't apprehend. And finally, likeness and unlikeness. So if you had another donut, you could say that, yeah, these things are similar because they're both round, they both have holes in the middle, maybe they both have icing, but they're unlike, right? Because this one has white icing, whereas that one has chocolate icing, or this one has sprinkles and that one has no sprinkles, or this one has a hole and that one doesn't have a hole. The other one has filling, this one doesn't. So these are all things that we would claim to know about the donut, but which the senses alone couldn't show us. So these key properties for Socrates, being and non-being, difference and sameness, unity and plurality, likeness and unlikeness, these are essential for knowing the object, but they're not things that the senses by themselves can show us. So as you go back to the slides, note the final set of predicates that Socrates wants to say we would claim to know about things, but which the senses alone can't show us.